Tanner Houck is not only considered the ace of the Boston Red Sox right now, he's also one of the best pitchers in the entire sport. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin. The Red Sox took on an entirely new pitching philosophy so far this season, and it's worked out pretty well. In fact, there have been a lot of surprising performances, especially out of the rotation for the Boston Red Sox, on a staff that came into 2024 with very little expectations. However, no one embodies that change in philosophy more than Tanner Houck. So what we are going to do in today's video is we're going to break Houck down. We're going to talk about why he could be considered one of, if not the best starter in Major League Baseball right now, and what has led to this change, plus whether or not it could be sustainable. But before we get into that, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, did you know you can get these episodes on the go in podcast form? That's right, you can listen to Red Seat Radio on the go, either by clicking the link in my description or heading over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. It's been a really interesting year for Tanner Houck, not only because of what he was doing on the field, but because of the fact that he came into spring training this year not even really knowing if he'd be in the Red Sox starting rotation. He was coming off a season where he was a pretty below average pitcher, finishing 2023 with a 5.01 ERA and a 4.43 FIP, which was good for a 90 ERA plus, about 10% below league average production. If you ask most fans and analysts, there's probably a pretty good chance coming into 2024 that they would say they wanted Houck in the bullpen, especially with the addition of Lucas Giolito to the Red Sox rotation over the winter. However, Tanner Houck got his opportunity to be a regular starter with Lucas Giolito going down for the year, and so far this season, he's seized every inch of that opportunity because right now, Tanner Houck has a 1.98 ERA, which is good for the fourth lowest ERA in the entire sport. His whip right now, so far this year, is below 1 at 0.918. Again, the fourth best in baseball. His FIP, fielding independent pitching, is down all the way to a 2.21, which is the best FIP in the entire sport. Essentially, what that means right now is Houck is the best in baseball when it comes to preventing runs, walks, and hit batsmen while also generating strikeouts. His ERA plus is sitting at 2.18, which is not only 118% more productive than the average pitcher in the sport, but it's also the fourth best starter ERA plus in all of Major League Baseball. He also leads the entire sport in base out runs saved at 22.51, which basically means that he is the best starter in baseball when it comes to preventing runs after runners get on base. Not to mention, he is second in all of baseball when it comes to home runs per nine at 0.212. Basically, I could go over stats all day, but any way you want to slice it or look at it, Tanner Houck has become one of the most dominant pitchers in the sport through his first 13 starts of the season. But what has led to this transformation? One of the biggest causes for Houck's emergence this season has been his ability to throw strikes. Last year, Houck was walking about 8.9% of the batters he faced. That was well below league average in the 42nd percentile, basically meaning 58% of Major League pitchers were walking less batters than Tanner Houck in 2023. This year, he's been able to cut that number in half, dropping all the way down to 4.5%, which puts him in the 91st percentile in the entire sport. Only 9% of pitchers walk less batters than Houck so far this year. Part of this transformation is due to the fact that Tanner Houck has a new starting position on the rubber. Last season, Houck would begin his windup a bit more towards the middle of the rubber. This year, he starts his windup basically as far to the first base side as possibly allowed. This helps his sliders stay in the zone longer than ever before, not only leading to more swing and miss and generation of weak contact, but also more time in the zone leads to more strikes. And one thing he's done really well this season, aside from just starting on the left base side of the rubber, is get first pitch strikes. He's one of the best starters in baseball when it comes to first pitch strikes in an at-bat, and as we all know, the first strike completely changes the entire dynamic of a batter's mentality when in the box. He's done some absolutely fantastic things in terms of adjustments on the rubber that have led to a really great walk rate, and that's a big reason why Tanner Houck's been so effective this year. But it's not the only reason. Another big reason for Houck's success so far this season has been the emergence of his splitter. Last year, Houck was using a splitter around 11.4% of the time, and the pitch just really wasn't all that effective. Batters last season were hitting .310 off of it with a .452 slug. The problem with it not being effective as a third pitch is Houck essentially became a two-pitch pitcher. Hitters realized that, hey, if I just sit in the box and I lay off that unbelievable slider, which is obviously difficult to do, but if you are able to do that, Houck is going to have to eventually throw you something fast, either a sinker or a fastball, or he's going to try and lay in one of those splitters and hitters would attack it. This season, however, he has clearly figured out how to get that splitter working, because right now it is the fifth best splitter in the entire sport when it comes to vertical movement, dropping about 38.3 inches before it hits the mitt, 4.3 inches more than the average splitter in the game. He has absolutely and utterly transformed the movement on that pitch, and he's also upped the usage. His splitter is now up to being used about 24.2% of the time. What this has led to is a really great swing and miss put out pitch. Are hitting just .183 off of it with a .247 slug. He has allowed one singular home run off of his splitter this entire season, and that is a massive difference between this year and last year. And the emergence of his splitter has kind of made the rest of his arsenal a bit more effective too, because now hitters have to sit there and they have to respect that splitter, allowing him to mix in that slider and sinker a bit better than he's been able to do in the past. The other big thing in terms of his pitch arsenal that has been really effective so far this season is something that the Red Sox have done sort of as a group so far this year, and that is really sort of just delete the fastball, the four-seam fastball from their arsenal. Red Sox pitchers just flat out are not using a four-seam fastball as much as they have been over the past couple of years, and it's led to a lot more effectiveness, but it really stands out when you look at Tanner Houck. Last season, Tanner Houck didn't use his fastball all that much, but he did still use it a pretty decent amount. It was about 11% of his pitch arsenal in 2023, and it really didn't work out well for him. A lot of his effectiveness came off of that sinker and slider that we're going to talk about in a second, but in terms of what he was using for his fastball, opponents were hitting around .325 off of it with a .550 slug. That is by far and away the worst pitch he had of his arsenal last year. Now, this was actually something that Andrew Bailey was preaching throughout his time as a pitching coach, and something he brought over to the Boston Red Sox. One of his biggest philosophies is that he wants to highlight and really hone in on what brought a pitcher to this level, right? How did a starting pitcher get to the highest level of the game of baseball, and what can we do to turn that into his most effective weapon? For Tanner Houck, that is clearly not his four-seam fastball, something that, again, they just completely took out of his arsenal, and he's seeing really great results because of it. You're taking out essentially a pitch that hitters were hitting .550 in terms of their slug off of. That's a big difference, not only a hitter's approach, but a hitter's results at the plate. When it comes to what his biggest strength on the mound is, it's very clearly his movement on his pitches. We talked about the splitter already and how it's one of the highest moving pitches in the sport compared to other splitters in the game, but it's not that alone. We all know that Tanner Houck has an absolute frisbee of a slider, but did you know it was the fourth highest horizontal movement on any slider in the entire game of baseball? His sinker on top of that is also the second highest vertical movement pitch in all of baseball when it comes to comparing it to other sinkers. So you take a look at what makes Tanner Houck so effective. It's highlighting the movement behind his pitches and essentially just throwing frisbees to the plate every time he's throwing a pitch, and eliminating that four-seam fastball absolutely helps in that. It's a big reason why, again, we look at what has made Tanner Houck so effective, focusing on the fact that he has so much movement on basically every other pitch, but the four-seam has absolutely helped in been doing that. And there's one more thing I want to point out in terms of year-to-year adjustments and what a possible cause for this increase in basically every single statistic could be. One of the things that was really sort of immediately noticed about Tanner Houck's delivery to the plate was that he's no longer putting his hands above his head. In 2023, basically at a windup, Tanner Houck would throw his hands over his head before throwing a pitch to home plate. We talk about the adjustments he made with the rubber and how that helps him control his pitches on the mound. This is another thing that allows him to do that. By keeping his hands close and steady by his chest, he's able to replicate that motion a whole lot easier than he was when he was throwing his hands over his head. What this allows him to do is really hone in again on his movement towards the plate, and what it has led to is not only more control, but also more movement on a lot of his pitches. Because he's coming in with a very similar motion every time to the plate, he's allowed himself to focus more on the movement of his pitches, and to me, that is another really big reason why Tanner Houck's been more effective throughout the 2024 season. We got to give some credit here, not only to Tanner Houck, but to Andrew Bailey as well. Tanner Houck has always had this potential. He was a first-round draft pick for the Boston Red Sox. He was a pretty highly regarded prospect as he came through the Red Sox system. I don't believe he was ever a top 100 guy, but he was always someone, as he was coming up, that everyone kept saying, hey, this could be a dude at the major league level. And for the first couple years of his major league career, we saw that, but in very short bursts. We would see a couple of starts here and there where Tanner would absolutely dominate. We'd see the first couple of times through a lineup where Tanner Houck would absolutely dominate, but he'd never really been able to fully put it together. With both the hard work that Tanner Houck has put in and the hard work that Andrew Bailey has put in, they've finally been able to reach that next level, and it is absolutely electric. Tanner Houck has not only taken a step forward this season, he has emerged as one of the game's very best, and he has been an absolute lifesaver for the Boston Red Sox. In a season where a lot of their pitchers are brand new and a lot of their pitchers haven't been going super deep into games, Tanner Houck's really been the Red Sox ace and the Red Sox workhorse. He currently has a 2.9 B WAR, which not only leads Red Sox pitchers, but it's also the second highest total WAR on the entire team. He's beating out guys right now when it comes to WAR of the likes like Rafael Devers. Tanner Houck and Jarren Duran are currently at the top of that leaderboard, and not only that, but he also has 85 innings pitched this year. Not only the most innings on your team, but the most innings from a starter in Major League Baseball has been absolutely massive. If we were to pick an MVP of the 2024 season at this point in the year, it absolutely has to be Tanner Houck. What we have seen from Houck so far this year is nothing short of excellence. If he continues to pitch like this season, he very easily could cement himself as one of the most feared pitchers in the game. Question is whether or not these changes are really sustainable. And in my opinion, they absolutely are. It's not like Tanner Houck is doing something he's just been fully incapable of doing his entire career, right? And I do think there are going to be bumps in the road. He doesn't have a ton of experience being a starting pitcher on an everyday basis throughout an entire season, so there are probably going to be times this year where he has to make game-to-game adjustments. But when you look at the adjustments he's already made, starting on a different place in the rubber, changing his windup, and changing his delivery to the plate are things that he can continue to do throughout the entire season that would allow him to continue this success. And he's always had the movement that we talked about on his pitches. So yeah, I absolutely think this is sustainable. Now, below a 2 ERA, is that sustainable for an entire year? I'm going to guess probably not, but I do think with what the changes we have seen Tanner Houck make over the last couple of months and through the offseason, a 2.4, 2.5 ERA feels right now like a very realistic goal for Tanner Houck to get to. The only other thing I will mention is getting into the second half of the year, this is going to be all uncharted territory. Tanner Houck's never really gotten close to throwing 175 innings in a season. He's on pace to get really close, if not get over that. That's going to be the other real challenge, in my opinion, as we get further along in the year, is just dealing with things he hasn't dealt with before. But I'll tell you what, right now he's got the tools to absolutely get the job done. But that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think about this? What do you think about Tanner Houck being one of the best, if not the best pitchers in Major League Baseball? What do you think about his adjustments? And what do you think about the possibility of long-term sustained success with these changes? Let me know all your thoughts on Tanner Houck, the best pitcher in baseball, in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Like I said in the intro, if you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button as well. This was a bit of a different style of video for me, so if you do like this content, you want to see more of it, let me know by hitting that like button. It's the best way I can figure out if you guys like it. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.